I moved to the suburbs for peace and quiet. That's it. That was the dream. A little yard, maybe plant a tomato or two, finally escape the joyless symphony of city horns and people who treat sidewalks like NASCAR. I just wanted space, air, and a place where I didn't need to chain my grill to a tree. So you can imagine my surprise when I met her, Karen. And if you're picturing a woman with a rigid blonde bob, a clipboard that could double as a medieval weapon, and the soul of a parking ticket, you're not far off. The first time I laid eyes on her, I was unloading boxes on my porch. Sweat down my back, hands full, dreams still intact. I heard a voice behind me, sharp enough to cut through steel. "What's inside?" I turned so fast I nearly threw my back out. She was just there, like she'd teleported in on a gust of passive aggression. Personal belongings?" I replied, halfway between startled and confused. "And you are?" She cut me off with the precision of a tax auditor. "I hope there's nothing illegal in there." "Of course not," I started, eyebrows raised. "But how are you?" "I'm Karen, president of the HOA. She said it like she was being knighted. "I hope you received the manual." "Oh, the manual." That beautiful, soul-crushing, 83-page manifesto that looked like it was compiled by a committee of lawyers who hadn't touched grass since the Bush administration. "Yeah, I skimmed it. Figured I'd take a vacation month just to finish reading it." I joked. "Nothing. Not even a pity chuckle." She narrowed her eyes like I'd insulted her bonsai collection. "I suggest you do that as soon as possible. We don't joke about it." Before I could come up with a witty retort involving the Geneva Conventions and HOA fines, she vanished. I turned back to my boxes. Turned again. Gone. I stood there in the sweltering heat, looked up at the sun, wiped the sweat off my forehead, and muttered, "Okay, what the hell was that? Heat stroke? Or am I really in that kind of neighborhood?" Spoiler, it was that kind of neighborhood. Karen was like a spectral force, omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotently annoying. Didn't mow your lawn by 8:03 a.m.? She was there. Trash bins still out at 3:15 p.m.? She'd emerge from the shadows like a possum in a power suit. And the curiosity. My God, the curiosity. If curiosity killed the cat, Karen would have taken out the entire feline species by now. "Package on your porch?" She'd ask what was inside. "Backyard equipment?" She'd hover by your fence with binoculars. I swear if I'd sneezed, she'd ask what kind of tissues I used and whether they were HOA approved. Neighbors started trading Karen horror stories like we're veterans. One told me she once fined him for a grass of uneven emotional tone. I don't know what that means, but it cost him $75. And of course, she had her eye on me. Every day, subtle little walk-bys that felt more like recon missions. Once, she tapped on my window and asked why my blinds were angled aggressively. I started locking everything, just in case she decided to climb through the HVAC system next. But the moment when I knew she had to be stopped was the day Tesla arrived. See, I'm an engineer. I work with Tesla's autopilot systems, mostly software and testing, and the car was part of a new project. It was loaded with gear, cameras, sensors, diagnostic tools, and a few experimental features I probably shouldn't legally admit to having access to. So the Tesla rolls off the truck and barely finishes cooling when I hear that familiar Karen tone just vibrating through the molecules of air. She was there, already, like a raccoon in yoga pants. She circled the car, peering into the windows like it owed her money. And that's when it hit me. Like divine inspiration from the passive-aggressive gods. She wanted to get into everything. Well, what if I let her? That night, I didn't sleep. I engineered. I stayed up with wires, code, systems I probably wasn't cleared to tweak, all while drinking enough caffeine to launch myself into orbit. And by morning, it was ready. Tesla Trap version 1.0. Everything was tuned. Interior cameras on, external surveillance rolling, facial recognition locked, learn mode programmed, escape plan checked. I stepped back, admired the shiny black car sitting innocently in the driveway like a baited bear trap. I sipped my coffee and whispered, "Let's see what you do now, Karen." Then I waited, like a fisherman on a lake, like a Bond villain before the monologue. From my kitchen window, I watched the stage. Didn't take long. I looked down at my phone, blinked, looked back up, and poof, there she was. The demon queen of lawn code violations, already casing the Tesla like a jewel thief. She peeked inside. She circled again. She leaned in and, yep, tried the door. Click. It opened. I grinned so wide I felt like my cheeks might crack. She hesitated for a moment, probably wondering if the universe was truly on her side. Then she slid in. The door shut behind her with a satisfying thunk. Unauthorized user. Unauthorized user, the Tesla chirped. She scowled. I am the president of the HOA. She barked at the dashboard like it owed her HOA dues. The car paused. Then, for your safety, fasten your seatbelt. For your safety, fasten your seatbelt. She huffed again, tightened the 4-point seatbelt on her shoulders as if it insulted her purse, and sneered. Learn mode activated, the car said cheerfully. Karen blinked. What? Then all hell broke loose. The doors locked. A devil emoji appeared on the center screen. The sports seat adjusted, not uncomfortably, just assertively. The engine roared like it had something to prove. And then Tesla did what Tesla does. It drove. She screamed. And I stood there sipping coffee, watching my driveway turn into a Fast and Furious reboot starring a suburban tyrant and several $100,000 worth of experimental AI. And the best part? Oh, I made sure the whole neighborhood saw it. I mean, what else is an engineer with a grudge supposed to do? She screamed. Loud. Like a banshee trapped in a blender. The Tesla? Silent, smooth, merciless. It glided down the driveway like a shadow with headlights. Calm as ever. As if it wasn't currently kidnapping the self-proclaimed dictator of our neighborhood. The best part? The car knew exactly where to go. I'd programmed it the night before, right down to the inch. See, there's a closed-circuit racetrack half a mile from my house. It's used by a local auto testing group. Fenced off, private, safe, and just begging for a teachable moment. And now? It had a new VIP guest. Karen, strapped into a top-tier racing seat, surrounded by sensors, cameras, and subtle retaliation. Meanwhile, I was in my kitchen, one sock on, holding coffee like it was a trophy, watching it all unfold from 3 camera feeds on my monitor. The moment she opened the car door, everything started recording, inside and out. Thanks to my little modifications, that footage was now also streaming live to the neighborhood Facebook group. Let me tell you, Suburbia ate it up. Nancy G. OMG, is that Karen in the Tesla? Peter H. Ha 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 ha, she's in learn mode. Linda from Lot 14. Finally, some justice. Old Jenkins. That's what happens when you snoop around like a raccoon with a degree in harassment. The comments section was pure gold. I was snorting coffee out my nose by the time Tesla took its first lap. I'd programmed learn mode with strict safety parameters. Speeds capped, G-forces limited, and the route? Harmless, but dizzying. A few loops, a smooth slalom, and a straightaway just fast enough to make her feel like the spirit of NASCAR had personally cursed her. And oh, did she feel it? Interior cam showed her gripping the seatbelt like it was a rosary. Eyes wide. Hair in chaos, mouth locked in a scream that could probably be heard in another zip code. At one point, she tried yelling at the dashboard again. Stop this car immediately. I'll sue you. To which the system, sweet, snarky, unfeeling, responded. Learning in progress. Please remain seated. And then it activated the ventilation fan, just because I could. I opened the window and let the fresh air in, thinking how poetic it was that I'd come to the suburbs for peace, only to find war, and win it with code and caffeine. The Tesla finished its 4th lap. Karen, at this point, looked like she'd aged a decade. Her face was ghost white. Her hair, formerly a well-kept Karen signature, now looked like she'd wrestled a leaf blower. And then, just like that, the car slowed. Soft turn. Smooth navigation. It gracefully rolled back toward my driveway like nothing had ever happened. And there she was, trembling in the passenger seat, clutching the armrest like it was the last slice of dignity she had left. I walked outside, casually, coffee in hand. Smiling. Tesla stopped. Doors unlocked. Karen didn't move at first. She just sat there, blinking at the dashboard like it might jump out and attack her again. Finally, with all the grace of a dizzy toddler, she stumbled out. She stood there wobbling, hair looking like it lost a fight with an electric fence, legs stiff, face twisted like someone who just realized they're not actually in control of anything. I took a long sip of coffee and offered my warmest smirk. "Morning, Karen. Go for a spin." She pointed at me, still swaying slightly. "Why you did this? I'll have you fined. Arrested? Sued? Cancelled?" I raised an eyebrow. This? Coming from the woman who opened someone else's car door, got inside without permission after multiple warnings? Pretty sure the law has a word for that. And right on cue, flashing lights. 2 police cars slowly rolled up at the end of the street. Karen turned, and that crack in her confidence? It shattered like fine china at a punk rock concert. "Oh no. No, 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 no." She turned back toward me, tried to muster one last angry point of authority. "You'll see. I'll get the board to vote you out of this neighborhood." I smiled, stepped aside, and gestured dramatically with my coffee mug. "Why don't you explain all that to them?" The cops pulled up. 2 officers stepped out, 1 male, 1 female. Calm, collected, and visibly already over it. "We got a call about unauthorized entry into a vehicle," the male officer said, looking between us. Karen jumped into victim mode faster than a raccoon into a trash can. "Officers. Thank God. I was attacked. Trapped in that car against my will." The female officer frowned. "We were told the intruder was caught on camera." I raised my hand like I was in homeroom. "That would be me. I've got the footage." I handed them my tablet. Timestamps. Clear video. Karen approaching. Karen opening the door. Karen getting inside after multiple warnings. They watched. Didn't even take that long. The officers exchanged looks, and the female officer turned back toward Karen. "Ma'am, this is clearly trespassing. Possibly vehicle tampering. We're going to need you to come with us." Karen's jaw dropped. "I what? I'm the president of the HOA." The officer smiled politely. "You're still subject to the law." But I was only inspecting it. I have rights." "Oh, don't worry," the male officer said with a practiced sigh. "We'll read them to you." She looked like she was about to faint, or spontaneously combust. Honestly, I was rooting for the latter. The cops gently cuffed her, because yes, the law still applies even if your name is embroidered on your cardigan. As they guided her to the car, neighbors started gathering. Word had spread like wildfire. People appeared with phones, coffees, popcorn. Old Jenkins from 2 houses down leaned in, arms crossed, and muttered, "It's good you got her out of the neighborhood. Shame you had to bring her back." Everyone laughed. Even the cop chuckled. Karen, red-faced and shrieking, was loaded into the cruiser like a very angry turkey. And me? I just waved and said, "Drive safe, officers. Or don't. You could always try learn mode." The door closed. The car pulled away. And for the first time since I moved here, it was quiet. But oh, this was only the beginning. You'd think that after being escorted away in handcuffs by actual law enforcement, in broad daylight, in front of half the neighborhood and 500,000 Facebook views, Karen would take the hint. Spoiler, she did not. She was back 3 hours later. Hair frizzled, ego bruised, rage levels set to scorched earth. She stomped down her driveway like God had personally offended her by inventing gravity. From the window, she looked like someone trying to walk off a boxing match she lost in round 1. And somehow, she still had the audacity to glare across the street at me, standing on my porch with a fresh coffee and zero remorse. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, breathing heavily, burning a hole through my soul with a gaze that screamed, "I will destroy you, lawn gnome by lawn gnome." I gave her a polite little wave. "Welcome back. No hard feelings." She stormed inside and slammed her door so hard the neighborhood squirrels declared a state of emergency. But the wheels were already turning, and not just on her imaginary vendetta mobile. See, Karen's Learn Mode Joyride had lit a fire in the community. People who'd been suffering in silence suddenly realized that yes, in fact, they could stand up to her clipboard of tyranny. I barely had to say a word. That evening, I got my first knock on the door. It was Linda from Lot 14. She showed up holding a stack of printed screenshots. "We're filing a formal complaint with the HOA committee." "You in?" "What? Like a class action HOA uprising?" "Exactly. and we're using your footage. Now, Linda might have been wearing a cardigan that screamed wholesome church choir, but the look in her eyes was pure rebellion. I liked her already. Over the next few days, the neighborhood transformed from Pleasantville to Les Miserables. If the French Revolution involved hedges, porch lights, and years of suppressed rage, people were digging up fines from years ago. Ridiculous violations like porch decor exceeding seasonal cheer limits or bushes trimmed aggressively. One guy, Dave from Lot 6, pulled out a literal spreadsheet of every time Karen fined him for failure to align garbage bins at a 90-degree angle. His words, I swear to God. They all came to me. The accidental hero, the Tesla tamer, the suburban Spartacus. You've got the footage. You've got the guts. And you've got, well, a car with more processing power than the SpaceX control center, Dave said. You have to help us take her down. So I did what any normal engineer turned accidental suburban legend would do. I uploaded the full compilation video, every Karen incident I had recorded since moving in. Package peeking, lawn pacing, trash bin lurking, mailbox hovering, and of course, the Tesla incident, now lovingly titled by the group as Karen's Autopilot Awakening. By the end of the week, it had 5,000 views, and we lived in a suburb with maybe 80 people. That's when the complaints started rolling in. First, 1 or 2, then 10. Then Linda texted me at 2 a.m. with just 2 words. It's happening. The HOA inbox got flooded. Karen tried to hold the line. She strutted around with her usual smug aura, clipboard clenched like a battle shield. But it was different now. People didn't avoid eye contact anymore. They smiled. Smugly. With the energy of we've seen you scream at a dashboard, Karen. She upped her patrols, of course. Checked everyone's grass with a ruler. Harassed teenagers for overuse of sidewalk space. Filed complaints about bird feeders. Bird feeders. She even sent me an official noise violation because I allegedly operated a vehicle in an unsettling and disorderly manner. You mean the car that was parked? Don't get smart. Oh, but Karen, I was born smart. You came to the wrong suburb, sweetheart. A week passed, then 2, and then the HOA had no choice. They called an emergency meeting, and it was glorious. They held it in the community center, the same place Karen had once banned potlucks for unlicensed casserole distribution. The chairs were folding metal. The tension could have been cut with a plastic butter knife. And the crowd? Standing room only. Karen walked in like she still had control. Clipboard? Check. Binder full of bylaws? Check. Delusions of grandeur? Triple check. But then she saw me, sitting in the front row. Laptop open. Video compilation loaded. Coffee in hand. Her face dropped like the stock market in 2008. The board tried to remain neutral. Bless their poor, HOA-weary souls. We're here to discuss numerous complaints filed against the acting president, Karen. I object, she snapped. You don't get to object, said the treasurer, who I'm pretty sure hated her since 2017. Then Linda stood up, held her phone out, hit play. Karen peeking into a neighbor's Amazon package. Just checking for contraband. Karen yelling at a 6-year-old for using the sidewalk chalk too expressively. Karen holding a ruler up to a lawn and muttering, 3.1 inches. Unacceptable. And finally, Karen, screaming inside the Tesla. Stop this madness. I'm a leader. I have rights. The crowd? Howled. She tried to spin it. That footage was obtained illegally. It's slander. It's your voice, I said. I was under distress. You put yourself in the car. The vote wasn't even close. 24-1. She voted for herself, obviously. She was stripped of her HOA title on the spot. Her clipboard was taken. Her bylaws binder? Confiscated. I almost stood up and sang the national anthem. But Karen? She didn't take it well. She stormed out, flipping off the entire community on the way, muttering something about legal action and knowing people in the mayor's office. Sure, Karen. And I've got a UFO in my garage. But this wasn't over yet. Oh no. The next morning, I got a letter taped to my door. A final threat. She was going to bring hell to this street. Unfortunately for her, hell already came, and it left with a seatbelt burn. If Karen was a volcano, this was her post-eruption phase. spewing little puffs of passive aggression and lava made of empty threats. After her spectacular HOA dethroning, you'd think she'd crawl back into her hydrangea-lined cave and reflect. But no, Karen did not go gently into that good night. She went stomping, snarling, and threatening lawsuits like she had a subscription. And her first target? Me, of course. She started by flooding the local message board with wild accusations. One post read, "Neighborhood warning. Individual on Maple Court, you know who, is involved in technologically manipulating vehicles and harassing residents with trap cars. This is a safety risk and possibly a terror threat." A terror threat? Me. The guy whose idea of rebellion is drinking decaf at 10 p.m. Another post followed. "To all real residents who care about the safety and order of our neighborhood, please support me in bringing back decency." It got 3 likes. One was from her second account, which had the username Not Karen. Meanwhile, I was drinking cappuccino and upgrading my home security system with the kind of nonchalance that only comes from knowing your enemy is losing traction faster than a Honda in a hailstorm. But she wasn't done. She started filing noise complaints again, including one about the unnatural hum of advanced artificial intelligence in the vicinity. Girl literally filed a complaint against the concept of AI. Then came the lawn inspections. She walked by my house with a protractor. I swear on my Wi-Fi router. She squatted in the middle of my yard and tried to calculate if my hedges were infringing on the visual serenity clause. There is no visual serenity clause. She made it up. One day, I caught her trying to peer into my garage, where the Tesla sat like a sleeping dragon, peacefully charging and waiting for round 2. "Can I help you?" I asked through the Ring speaker. She jumped back like she'd been tasered by reality. "Just checking for, unauthorized modifications. You don't have permits for experimental transportation devices. And you don't have permits to inspect someone's garage, Karen." She vanished again. The thing was, her power, that oppressive, clipboard-wielding power, had evaporated. People weren't afraid anymore. They laughed. They waved. One neighbor even put a Karen crossing sign in their yard. But the final blow? That came from the complaints. See, after I filed mine, the one with all the security footage, timestamps, documentation, it started a domino effect. Suddenly, others realized they weren't just annoyed, they had evidence. Neighbors dug into their Ring cams. One person had footage of Karen reaching into their mailbox. Another caught her measuring a neighbor's Christmas lights and yelling at an inflatable snowman for violating decorum standards. Within 2 weeks, the HOA committee was buried. Dozens of formal complaints. Signatures. Photos. Videos. A manila envelope so thick it needed a rubber band. I got a call from Linda one morning, voice trembling with excitement. We submitted it. The avalanche. The whole mountain. That same day, Karen was served a letter, official and very, very serious looking, informing her that due to the overwhelming volume of violations, legal review was pending. She could either cooperate or risk full investigation and potential community legal action. She tried to rally. She posted some all-caps manifesto on Nextdoor about being persecuted and targeted for trying to maintain order in a crumbling civilization. She compared herself to Joan of Arc. Someone replied, "Joan of Arc didn't micromanage trash bins." Old Jenkins left a comment that just said "Lmeo," and then, just like that, she cracked. 2 weeks of neighborhood silence. No sightings. No rants. No protractors on lawns. And then, one Thursday morning, I saw the sign. Literally. A for sale sign. Right in front of Karen's house. I walked outside. Stared. Blinked twice. Thought it might be a mirage caused by joy. But no. It was real. I stood there, stunned, when Dave from Lot 6 walked by. "She's leaving?" "Yup," he grinned. "Word is, she's moving to some gated community where the HOA actually encourages surveillance." Sounds about right. God help them. I didn't see her that day, but the next morning, she emerged. Dressed in all black, dragging a suitcase like she was going to exile herself into a soap opera. She refused to make eye contact. I stood on my porch, coffee in hand, the circle complete. She paused halfway down the walkway, looked at me like she wanted to say something. Maybe an apology, maybe one final hiss, but all that came out was, "You're evil." I smiled. "I'm an engineer." She huffed, got in her Uber, and left. Gone. Just like that. The house was empty within days. The for sale sign had a big red "sold" slapped on it. And just like that, peace returned to suburbia. A week later, we held a neighborhood party. Grills fired up. Lawn chairs assembled. People laughed, danced, and toasted to freedom. At some point, someone handed me a microphone. Speech. Speech. I stood up, tapped the mic, and raised my cup. Sometimes, all it takes to defeat tyranny is a laptop, a sense of humor, and a Tesla on learn mode. And Karen? Well, she took the wheel and drove herself straight out. The crowd roared. Even the Tesla blinked its headlights in approval. It's been 3 months since Karen left. The grass has never looked greener, mostly because no one's being fined over it. The air, crisper, lighter, like the HOA itself exhaled when she slammed that Uber door. No more surprise inspections. No more clipboard ambushes. No more psychological warfare over mailbox aesthetics. Just peace. Beautiful, glorious, petty-free peace. Her house sold to a retired couple who immediately ripped out the HOA president parking sign and replaced it with a flamingo-shaped welcome post. I could have cried. The community was thriving. People who used to dodge her patrol routes were now out walking their dogs, sipping lemonade, having conversations that didn't end with, "Please don't report me." Kids could draw on the sidewalk again without fearing a cease and desist. Even the HOA meetings stopped feeling like interrogations and started feeling like, well, meetings. Linda got elected interim president, by the way. Her first act? Abolish Karen's 83-page HOA manual and replace it with a 1-page document titled, "Don't Be a Jerk." It passed unanimously. But just because Karen was gone didn't mean I stopped being ready. Tesla still sat in my garage, my loyal metal partner in suburban justice. I'd cleaned it, upgraded its systems, added a few new tricks, just in case someone ever tried pulling another Karen. Let's just say Learn Mode now has a history class expansion and a fog machine. One afternoon, I caught Dave staring into the Tesla's interior like it was a spaceship. "It's really the same car?" he asked. "Yep. You didn't, exorcise it or anything?" "No need. It exorcised her." He shook his head, laughing. "You're a legend, you know. Jenkins still tells people you digitally deported a Karen. Honestly, I'll take it. Because I didn't move out here to become a suburban myth or wage war against the HOA industrial complex. I came for peace and quiet. I just didn't expect to earn it with engineering and psychological chess. And yet, I'd do it all again. Every wire I soldered. Every camera I positioned. Every line of code I wrote while chugging energy drinks and muttering, "This is for the neighborhood." It was worth it. The best part? People started standing up for themselves more, filing legitimate complaints, taking back control from petty tyrants with personalized clipboards. One guy even 3D printed a mini statue of the Tesla and left it on my porch with a note. "Thanks for setting the wheels in motion." I still laugh every time I see it. Sometimes at night, I sit on the porch with a hot drink and look down the street, where Karen used to prowl like a hawk with boundary issues. I listen to the silence, not the eerie kind, but the good kind. The kind where no one's being harassed for seasonal wreath placement or ornamental gnome excess. And sometimes I open the Tesla app, scroll through the Learn Mode footage, and just reminisce. Like that moment when she yelled, "I'm a leader. I have rights." And the car calmly responded, "Learning in progress." Chef's kiss. The neighborhood is thriving. Jenkins finally decorated his house with full-on Halloween madness, something Karen had banned for promoting pagan chaos. Linda holds Friday BBQs. We even have a secret group chat now called KREN, kindly asserting residence and nonsense. And me? I've got my peace, my porch, my freedom, and a Tesla that knows how to teach a lesson. If anyone ever asks how to handle a suburban tyrant, I've got just one piece of advice. Give them a seatbelt, a devil emoji, and let the car do the talking. Thank you for being with us. Please share in the comments where you are watching from and whether you liked everything, and see you next time.